When a Navy catapult officer retires from an aircraft carrier, his boots don't go home with him. They get strapped to a steam-powered catapult and launched into the ocean at over 150 miles per hour. Cross the equator for the first time on a carrier, and you'll crawl through rotting food scraps, get your face shoved into a sailor's grease-covered belly, and kiss the feet of King Neptune's court. These aren't officially sanctioned ceremonies. The Navy doesn't put them in recruitment videos. But they've been happening for generations, and they reveal a side of carrier life the public rarely sees. Behind the polished image of America's floating fortresses lies a world governed by unwritten rules. Some traditions build brotherhood, others test limits. A few have gotten sailors discharged. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the rituals that happen when the cameras aren't rolling and the admirals aren't watching.
Best cat, because it was 2 months. Ready?
Aircraft carriers represent the peak of American naval power. These billion-dollar warships carry over 5,000 personnel, launch combat missions across the globe, and project strength wherever they sail. But life aboard these massive vessels isn't just about F-18 launches and military precision. There's another layer, a culture built on centuries-old maritime customs, initiation rites, and traditions that would shock most civilians. The Navy has spent years trying to eliminate some of these practices. They've issued directives, created hazing prevention offices, and disciplined sailors caught participating. Yet many traditions persist, passed down through generations of sailors who see them as essential to naval identity. Some are harmless and heartwarming. Others walk a dangerous line between bonding and abuse. What makes these rituals so powerful is that they're not mandated by regulation. They exist in the shadows of official Navy culture, kept alive by the men and women who serve. They represent something deeper than orders. They're about belonging, proving yourself, and becoming part of something bigger. If you've ever served on a carrier or know someone who has, drop a comment below and share which tradition meant the most to you. The Crossing the Line Ceremony. The most famous tradition aboard aircraft carriers is the Crossing the Line Ceremony. It happens when a ship crosses the equator, and it's been part of naval culture since the days of wooden sailing ships. Officially, it's a rite of passage. Unofficially, it's organized chaos that transforms first-time crossers into members of an elite brotherhood. Sailors who've never crossed the equator are called polywogs or wogs. Those who have are shellbacks. The ceremony lasts an entire day, and polywogs endure a series of challenges designed to test their resolve. The event is led by King Neptune, usually played by the ship's captain or a senior officer, along with his royal court, including Davy Jones, the royal baby, and various other characters. On carrier flight decks and hangar bays, polywogs crawl on their bellies while being sprayed with fire hoses. They swim across the deck in salt water, navigate through tubes filled with rotting vegetables and food scraps the galley has been saving for days, and face the royal baby, the largest, hairiest sailor on the ship whose stomach is covered in axle grease or worse. The polywog must rub their face in it. These activities sound extreme, and they are. The Navy has repeatedly tried to tone down the ceremony. In recent decades, participation became officially voluntary. Sailors can opt out without penalty. Yet most choose to participate because earning that shellback certificate means something. It's proof you've crossed the equator and survived the ritual. It connects you to generations of sailors who came before. The certificate itself comes in different variations. Cross at the international dateline and you become a golden shellback. Cross at the prime meridian and you're an emerald shellback. Each designation carries its own prestige, and sailors display these certificates with pride. But here's the controversy. While the Navy sanctions the ceremony in principle, many actual activities fall into gray areas. Fire hoses have caused injuries. Sailors have been hospitalized after drinking concoctions forced on them during the ritual. In 2007, a female sailor reported being ostracized after declining to participate because she didn't want superiors hosing her down in a white t-shirt. The Navy received thousands of hazing complaints related to these ceremonies, leading to stricter oversight. The boot chute ritual. Now let's talk about something uniquely tied to aircraft carrier operations, the boot chute. When a catapult officer, known as a shooter, completes their tour or retires, there's a ceremonial send-off that involves launching their flight deck boots off the ship's catapult. Catapult officers hold one of the most critical jobs on a carrier. They're responsible for the final decision to launch multi-million-dollar fighter jets into the sky. You've seen them in movies, the officer standing near the jets, using hand signals and lit batons to communicate launch procedures. Every launch depends on their judgment and precision. When their time aboard ends, the shooter's boots get strapped to the catapult. The ritual follows the exact procedure of a standard aircraft launch: hand signals, safety checks, the final salute. Then the catapult fires, and those boots rocket off the deck at over 150 miles per hour before disappearing into the ocean. This tradition dates back at least to the 1950s, when steam-powered catapults became standard on carriers. Nobody knows exactly who started it, but it's become a deeply meaningful ceremony. One veteran described bringing his 10-year-old son aboard to watch the ritual. The boy mimicked every hand signal his father made, right down to the final salute before the boots launched. That memory stayed with both of them forever. The boot chute isn't advertised in Navy publications. It's not mentioned in official ceremonies. Yet it continues because it represents something profound: the end of an era, respect for a demanding role, and the carrier community's way of honoring those who kept jets flying safely. Before we go deeper into these hidden traditions, please take a second to like this video and subscribe. Over 98% of viewers watch without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but makes a huge difference to us. Steel Beach Picnics. Not all carrier traditions involve initiation or ceremony. Some exist simply to maintain morale during months-long deployments. The Steel Beach Picnic is one of these, and it transforms the flight deck into something completely unexpected. During extended deployments, carriers occasionally halt operations for a day of recreation. The flight deck, normally a high-stress environment where one mistake can be fatal, becomes a festival ground. Grills get set up. Music blasts from speakers. Sailors play volleyball, football, and even organize skeet shooting competitions off the side of the ship. The food is the highlight. After weeks of standard galley meals, Steel Beach picnics feature steak, hamburgers, hot dogs, and sometimes even lobster. The grill masters, usually culinary specialists, take pride in serving thousands of crew members throughout the day. On submarines, the tradition works differently. Sailors might hit golf balls off the deck, fish from lawn chairs, or organize diving contests when surfaced in safe waters. These events serve a critical purpose beyond entertainment. Months at sea take a psychological toll. Sailors work 12-hour shifts, sleep in cramped quarters stacked 3 bunks high, and rarely see sunlight. Steel Beach picnics provide a mental break, a reminder that even in the middle of the ocean, there's still room for normalcy and celebration. The tradition reflects something essential about carrier culture. These ships function as floating cities, and like any city, they need moments of community and joy. The Navy fully supports Steel Beach picnics because they recognize their value for morale and retention. The hazing question. Here's where things get complicated. Many carrier traditions exist in a gray zone between bonding rituals and hazing. The Navy has wrestled with this issue for decades, and the line isn't always clear. In 2013, the Navy established a hazing prevention office after multiple high-profile incidents. Between April 2014 and June 2015, they received 4,937 hazing complaints. Only 28 were confirmed as hazing, but the reports covered everything from practical jokes to physical assault. The most common incidents involved tacking on warfare pins, literally hammering metal insignia into a sailor's chest, and unauthorized initiation ceremonies. Many sailors defend these traditions. They argue that enduring challenges together builds the warrior bond essential for combat effectiveness. When you've crawled through garbage with someone during a crossing the line ceremony, you trust them differently. When you've survived the same initiation, you share something that can't be replicated through official training. But the Navy sees real dangers. Sailors have been hospitalized. Others have been traumatized. In extreme cases, traditions crossed into outright abuse. 4 petty officers were discharged from the USS Princeton after participating in an unauthorized ceremony that went too far. Reports include sailors bound with zip ties, forced to drink dangerous concoctions mixing hot sauce with aftershave, and subjected to violence disguised as tradition. The military's stance has evolved significantly. What was accepted in the 1970s and 1980s is now prohibited. The Navy explicitly bans greasing, taping, striking, and other activities once considered normal. Even the vegetable shortening used in the Naval Academy's Herndon Monument climb, where plebes scale a 21-foot lard-covered obelisk, has been questioned after causing injuries. Yet traditions persist. Sailors find ways to maintain rituals while staying within new boundaries. Crossing the line ceremonies still happen, but with safety measures and the ability to opt out. The Navy tries to balance respecting heritage with protecting personnel, a challenge that remains ongoing. Unofficial certificates and secret orders. Beyond the shellback certificate, the Navy has dozens of unofficial designations that mark achievements most civilians never hear about. These certificates exist outside official recognition, but carry significant meaning among sailors. The Blue Nose certificate goes to those who cross the Arctic Circle. Given the extreme conditions and rare missions requiring Arctic transit, this designation holds special prestige. Similarly, crossing the Antarctic Circle earns the Red Nose or membership in the royal domain of the Penguin. Then there's the Caterpillar Club, for anyone who's made an unscheduled parachute jump from a disabled aircraft. Members wear a gold caterpillar pin on civilian clothes. The color of the caterpillar's eyes indicates circumstances. Ruby red eyes mean the wearer survived a mid-air collision. The Century Club recognizes pilots who've completed 100 carrier landings, an achievement requiring exceptional skill given that carrier landings rank among aviation's most dangerous maneuvers. Double Centurions have logged 200 landings. The Goldfish Club is for pilots who've ditched at sea and survived in a life raft. The Royal Order of Whalebangers remains shrouded in mystery. It's referenced in naval documentation, but specific criteria remain unclear, adding to its mystique. These unofficial orders create layers of identity beyond rank and rate. They acknowledge experiences and achievements that official regulations don't capture. A sailor might be a junior petty officer by rank, but hold certifications that command respect from admirals. It's a parallel system of honor based on experience rather than hierarchy. The wedding down ceremony. When officers get promoted, Navy tradition requires them to host a wedding down ceremony. The newly promoted officer throws a party, usually at a bar, and tradition demands they buy drinks for their fellow officers. But here's the twist. At some point during the celebration, the officer gets drenched. Sometimes it's water, sometimes champagne. In memorable cases, shipmates have added flour, string cheese, and mayonnaise to the mix. The idea is simple. You're being baptized into your new rank. You're celebrating the promotion while being humbled by your peers. This tradition exists across the Navy, but takes on special significance aboard carriers where space is limited and deployments are long. Wedding down ceremonies provide opportunities for crew members to gather outside formal military structure. They reinforce that regardless of rank, everyone aboard shares the same fundamental experience. The Navy doesn't officially sanction wedding down ceremonies, but they're tolerated because they serve a positive purpose. They mark career milestones, build morale, and maintain cultural continuity. Unlike some traditions that have faced scrutiny, wedding down remains relatively controversy-free because participation is genuinely voluntary and celebratory. Why these traditions matter. These hidden traditions reveal something essential about military service that can't be captured in recruitment videos or official statements. They show how groups of people living in extreme conditions create meaning and community. They demonstrate the power of shared experience to forge bonds stronger than formal hierarchy. Aircraft carriers operate in environments most people can't imagine. Sailors work on flight decks, where one mistake means death. They sleep in cramped quarters with 200 other people. They spend months at sea separated from families, watching the same patch of ocean day after day. In these conditions, traditions become anchors to sanity and identity. The traditions the Navy won't advertise often matter most to those who serve. A shellback certificate might seem silly to civilians, but to the sailor who earned it, it represents perseverance and membership in an exclusive community. The boot chute might look wasteful. Why destroy perfectly good boots? But to the shooter and their family, it's a profound honor marking the end of an era. These rituals connect current sailors to centuries of naval heritage. When you participate in a crossing the line ceremony, you're doing what sailors have done since the age of sail. When you attend a Steel Beach picnic, you're maintaining morale techniques that helped win World War II. These traditions tie generations together through shared experience. Conclusion. The traditions and rituals aboard aircraft carriers exist in the space between official Navy policy and sailor-driven culture. Some are celebrated. Others are tolerated. A few are prohibited, but persist anyway. Together, they reveal the human side of America's most powerful warships. The bonds, the humor, the tests, and the brotherhood that make these floating cities function. These are the stories the Navy doesn't advertise. They're messy, complicated, and sometimes controversial, but they're real. They're what sailors remember long after they leave the service. They're what turns a job into an identity and a deployment into a defining chapter of life. If this gave you a new perspective on carrier life, hit that like button and subscribe. And drop a comment sharing your thoughts on these traditions. Should they be preserved or are some better left in the past?